What's going on, guys? It's Stribbers and welcome to episode 32 of PGR2 Road to Platinum. In the last episode we did races 2 to 5 in the Track Specials series, and we're going to be continuing this series today with 4 events. We've got a street race, an overtake, a timed run and a hot lap to do. So we'll be starting this episode off with the street race, and we'll be using a Noble for this street race. As I said in the previous episode, the Noble is in all the other street races as an opponent, so in order to beat it, you're going to pretty much have to use this every time, which is a bit annoying, but it's what we have to do. So we're in Stockholm for this one, 3 laps, and we've got 6 opponents, but 5 of these opponents won't matter. No, sorry, we've got 5 opponents, because there's 6 cars, including this car that I'm driving. So there's 5 opponents and 4 of these won't matter because you should get past them on the first corner. And we're going to be behind this Noble, trying to chase him down. And coming from the Nürburgring to these smaller tracks is quite difficult to get used to. The Noble feels extremely fast on these sorts of tracks, and it can be quite difficult to control. But we're in second place, so we've just got to stay with this Noble as best we can and look for an opportunity to overtake, as the Dodge is still behind us actually, in third place, clinging on to us, but that should change when we get onto the straight near the finish line, or finish/start line. So we're staying about the same distance apart from there, just over half a second, 0.7 of a second. Cruising down the straight now. He's getting a little bit of a lead on us here, but if you look behind, the Dodge is now well out of the way. So we're going to have to catch him on the corners as best we can, and I get hung up on the barrier a little bit around that corner, a bit annoying, but we're able to recover and go around that right hairpin. Yeah, and this car's a little bit scatty over the bumps, especially this section coming up here. This section here, you have to slow down a little bit and ease off the throttle, because it does tend to be a bit scatty over the uneven surfaces, and it can just whip to one side, which can be very annoying. So you've got to control the car as best you can on that point. We're not making any ground on him, but we are just about catching him over that corner there, around that corner. So we're able just to get on the inside of him, use him as the corner a little bit, take him on the inside, but he has got the inside line going around this corner, so we're forced to back off and try and get into his slipstream, which I thought was a little bit too close. I thought I might hit him, but we were actually going exactly the same speed, so maybe I should have gone in the draft zone a little bit longer. But I dart on the inside here, not taking the racing line, but able to get in front of him and block his path, which he wasn't able to defend, as we were able to dart in front. So we are now looking to keep this lead, and there was an example of that scattiness I was on about with this. It's a bit uneven sometimes, and it's the same with the Ferrari Challenge Stradale actually. That acts the same, but he's able to come up the inside now because of that poor corner we did, and he's retaken first place. So I thought this was it. I thought I wasn't going to be able to catch him up, but luckily he did that weird thing that the AI do on this game, where they just turn out of the way when you're right behind them. There's a few instances in the previous episodes where that's happened, so I'm not sure why it happens, but it sort of hands us the win most of the time. So we're able just to stick in the lead now. He did re-overtake us, but we are in first place across the line. So that's that platinum medal done, and that's not an easy street race actually. They are very quick in that Noble, so it is a bit difficult to catch them, which is exactly why you've got to use the Noble. Dodge Viper nearly finished 4 seconds behind. And the second event we've got to do in this episode is an overtake, and we're going to be unlocking a new car. So we did use the Dodge in the previous episode, that Dodge Viper there. So we're going to be using the Ferrari Challenge Stradale for this one. You can use the Porsche as well, that's another one we haven't tried, but for this one I'm going to be using the Ferrari Challenge Stradale. So it's 2 minutes 10 for 7 cars to overtake in this. And this is actually fairly difficult when you're using, well, when you're not using the Noble, should I say. It took me a couple of attempts, but I thought it would be more challenging and more interesting than using the Noble for every race. So We're going for the Ferrari in this one. So you're able to overtake one on the first straight. Coming around the first corner nicely. You've got to catch up to this Bentley, which depending on how quickly you go round here, you can either overtake him on the left, but if you were quicker than I was round there, then you can overtake him on the right, because he is on the left hand side. So that all depends on how quickly you take the first couple of corners. But we fly past him for 2 cars done, chasing down this other Ferrari, which if you take this corner fairly well, you should be able to get him around about on the finish line, just before the finish line. And then on the straight, we should be able to fly past this Lotus with no problems at all. If you're a little bit slower around that first lap of the track, you may have to overtake him around these corners, which can be a little bit of a pain, as you'll see in the next lap. And that's 4 cars done, and I did just hit the inside of the barrier there. As I mentioned, the Noble was scatty. This Ferrari is also the same, over the same part of the track. You see the back end just goes everywhere, and it forces you just to change direction randomly, which is why I hit the inside of the barrier. Going around the last corner before the start line again, and we're behind the Ferrari 550 here, which we can just take on the inside there because he's going towards the outside. So it's 5 out of 7 cars, so it's 2 more down, or 2 more to go, shall I say, and we've got the 575 here in the most awkward place to try and overtake, so we're just going to have to wait a minute before we can overtake on the inside there. And the same thing happened there, where the car just flicked towards the inside of the corner and hit the barrier, which was a bit annoying, so we lost our clean race there, but nevertheless, we've got 10 seconds now to overtake this final car, which is the Mercedes. And as you can see, it is very close, but we managed to just about get in before the start-finish line with a couple seconds to go. So that's a nice platinum medal done in the Ferrari. It's nice to use this car. 7 cars overtaken. Very nice indeed. 6,100 kudos as well. So that's good. And now we're jumping back into the Noble for the last 2 events because we've got a timed run and a hot lap. So we're obviously going to have to use this car. So we're jumping back into the Noble. Picking it in yellow there, looks quite cool. So we've got 3 minutes 32 for platinum, and the longer the race is, generally, the harder it is because you've got more time to make errors. So there's 2 laps of this pretty long track. Yeah, 3 minutes is a long time to be doing one of these events for, and it's not an easy track either. It's quite a complicated one. So we're coming around the first couple of corners quite nicely. We've got this little bridge bit there that you've got to brake before the corner. There's a couple sections there to brake. So if you don't brake on the first bit, you do tend to lift off the ground slightly, which stops you braking. So you have to brake a little bit earlier. And it's a similar track to what we did in the Coupe series when we were in the BMW M3, although it is slightly different. We're coming up to this corner that I really find difficult to take. I have to take that slowly, ease off the throttle a little bit because it does tend to be quite hard to take quickly, that corner, because you end up going too far to the right after the chicane bit and you do hit the barrier, so that's a little bit annoying. But you can almost go flat out through this bit, maybe ease off slightly. There are sort of tight-ish corners, but you can do them okay with an okay speed. And coming through here, I did take the wrong line, and then we hit the inside of the barrier there, so that wasn't the best section through there at all. But up to then, I had a good lap, so I thought I'd carry on, see how we do when we cross the finish line. Because usually the longer the track, they do give you a little bit more room for error, so it's not too bad. Coming over that section where you do lift off, but you get enough time to brake before the final corner coming into start finish line. So let's see what time we get. 1:44.4, which is plenty quick enough to do this. I think you might need 1:46 per lap, something like that. So we're a good 1 second over. So we just got to do a similar lap on the second lap. So coming over this section again, we've got to brake a couple times there, once before the crest of that bridge and then once afterwards, so you can turn sharply right. Coming around this sweeping left hand corner onto the straight. Another left hand corner. Brake preemptively. I could have taken that a little bit wider there, but we're coming onto the straight and back down this chicane section, which I'm not too keen on. Taking it a little bit conservatively, but since I was up on the first lap, I don't want to be making any mistakes. I don't want to be crashing head first and spinning. Cut into these apexes nicely. Try and really flick it out wide, and then flick back into the apex to try and get the best line possible through there. Again, going as flat out as you can through here, making sure not to hit the barrier on either side. Coming down these tight corners here, taking a much better line than the first lap. Hitting the barrier, I think, slightly there again, so it's not the best I could have hoped for, but still doing alright, I think. And then just easing off slightly through here. Not taking quite as good a line through there, and also braking too early and turning in too early on that last corner. Not as good as the first lap, but still plenty good enough as we cross the line with a 144.7, I think it was, just about. So that was quite comfortable in the end. Took me a few attempts though, it's a very long track to learn that one. But see, 2.8 seconds, so that's an average of 1.4 each lap, which is very, very comfortable really. So it's a long track, but it should be okay to do that one. Not the most difficult one. Using the Noble again for the last event for this episode, which is going to be a hot lap. 1 minute 58, so again it's in Stockholm, a bit of a complicated circuit, but to make matters worse, it's in the rain. So this does tend to slide quite a lot, this car, in the rain. So as we always do, we've got to brake before we would, and also manage that throttle so we don't spin out. And it also goes wider in corners than it normally would. So you've really got to manage that throttle, because it does skid out wide more than you think. You can see there, it was going a bit more towards the left than I would have liked. So you have to be a bit more cautious around there. And there again, see, we're skidding out to the right and we actually hit the barrier, which we definitely wouldn't have done there in the dry because it would have just gripped and accelerated away. But we're doing okay so far. Nearly a second better than the previous attempt actually, by the split. And this is a very difficult corner as well. As you see, it oversteered massively there, so I had to correct. So it did slow me down quite a lot coming through that chicane section. Always difficult in the rain, but we're coming around these few twisty sections here quite nicely through there. Tapping the brakes here so you can cut into that section. And again, hugging this left hand side so you can cut into the right. As you can see, it slid way to the left there. Coming under these bridge sections here. 1.3 seconds now, better than my previous attempt, so I think this may be my second attempt actually. So the first attempt, even if I do crash, I just carry on so I can learn the lap properly. Because 2 minutes driving is quite a long time. Doesn't sound it, but it is when you're trying to put in the perfect lap. So going a little bit too close there, not wide enough on that section, but then hugging the apex around here to really minimise that distance around the corner. Making sure we don't power slide too much on the way out so we don't lose time. Crossing the line, 156.6 I think that was, or maybe 0.7. Have a look in a second. 0.7. So that's over a second for a hot lap, so again I'd say that's fairly comfortable, so I'm happy with that. And we are now ranked 45. 950,000 kudos, so nearly at 1 million. And 20 more tokens we've unlocked, so we get on the way for the top rank, so we can unlock all the cars. But that's going to do it for this episode, guys. So in the next episode, we've got a one-on-one, an overtake, timed run, and a hot lap to do. And that just leaves 4 more events for the episode after that to complete this series. So I hope you enjoyed it, guys. If you did, please like and subscribe if you're new for more content. And I'll see you in the next episode.